What's up, everybody? It's been a minute, but we are back with another live situated here. We got John Lucas III coming up. John's a former NBA player, former coach with the Timberwolves, and it's a 9-year anniversary of the day we shot the KD. So we're gonna have John on here talking about the day he played against KD in that legendary Rucker game. So I was just giving you a quick little intro to that day, and I started off by saying someone asked what's the craziest thing I saw that day, and besides the hoops, the craziest thing to me is just how early KD was there for a game. I mean, he was like the reigning scoring champion, and he was 2 hours early for a street ball game. So, and the picture I posted earlier today is just that. It's you and KD talking pregame at like 6 o'clock, and that game doesn't start until it's pitch black at night, which is like 8 o'clock in New York. So just talk to me about the start of that game, man, and how you were involved in it, and just your recollection of that day 9 years ago. It's crazy that it is 9 years ago.
I know it is. I mean, when you brought it up, I was like, dang, it's been 9 years. I was like, dang, time flies. It was just crazy. I was at the time I was living in New York with my girlfriend, but now my wife. We was and I was just playing ball. It was the lockout year, and you know they said New York has some of the best basketball, and I've always gone everywhere to play. It didn't matter what city. At that time I was in New York, and I just played in every single pro-am league, whatever you wanted to call it, in New York. And I didn't know about the Rucker game until maybe an hour before that picture you took, like 6 o'clock. My man called me. I was like, yo, they want you to play in Rucker today. KD's coming up here with all the guys from D.C. because most of his teammates on that was all from D.C. It was like a tour they was doing. And I was like, all right, where? And I was like, what time? And they told me, like, come now. And I lived in Harlem at the time, so it was just a couple of blocks away. So I walked there, and like, if you could tell, I looked in there, I was like, damn, I had footies on. I didn't even have like no NBA socks or anything on, so I wasn't like prepared. I just took my basketball shoes and was gone. And got there, me and KD, we go back. Like, we always known each other. Him and my brother played against each other in AAU, and then us playing against each other in the league, and the respect from what we have for each other. And a lot of people don't know, we was actually teammates in OKC when they first got there. I was a part of the first year with Russell, rookie year. And man, that game was like I was surprised to see him early there too. I was just the game's not gonna start till about 8:30. I was like, why am I here so early? They was hyping it up like we're about to get to playing right away. And we got there and we just chit-chatting like we always do. And then I didn't know he was gonna put a show on like that though. That was so impressive, man. I just remember, like, we haven't played outside in so long, and he was shooting like we was inside, like, and it was windy that day. It was a lot of different elements going on outside that you're not used to if you haven't played outside in a while. So the whole time he was like getting these buckets and scoring, I was looking like, yo, he's doing this outside. Like, this is pulling up from half court, like one step and hitting nothing but net. Like I call it, I say make that dog sneeze. So he was making the dog sneeze on multiple shots. It was just crazy, like triple teams, double teams. Like nobody could stop him in that game.
It's funny how that became like this legendary night. Like, you've been a part of so many pro-ams, so many street balls. Like, truth be told, like, a lot of those games become like sloppy games, blowouts, not competitive. It's just the nature of it. Like, guys are kind of in their off season working on something. That was like a playoff atmosphere. Like, you can't recreate what that atmosphere was like. Like, you've been to the highest level. Did that energy resonate with you still? Like, was that something special even for you?
I mean, absolutely. We was playing at the Rucker. The Rucker is legendary. Like, I used to listen to my father and all the, like his friends, like Dr. J, Iceman, George Gervin, all these guys that I grew up listening to these stories about how they used to go to the Rucker and play. So when you step on that court, it was like the energy was already there. It's like unmatched. and you know the history of the Rucker. You know what Rucker is about. Like you either you get exposed or you do the exposing, and everybody's gonna hear about it. So it was like from the jump ball went on, it was like go time. It wasn't no easing to it, none of that. It was just like mono y mono, what basketball's all about. Like what the games are now on TV. It was like this is some of the best basketball I have seen in a while by being in the bubble because it's focused, there's no outside distractions, everybody's locked in and every game count. That's what it felt like in the Rucker. It felt like we was about to like go for whoever wins this game is gonna win the championship for the summer. And he obviously brought the intensity and raised the game and the energy level to a whole nother, like it was already here. He took it to here. And with the crowd being in place and you was there, you see all of the guys jumping on the court, running on the court. Like that just makes you like even want to go even harder.
So I don't know if you ever saw it. We did a documentary some years before that. It was called The Blackout, and it kind of documented Jay-Z versus Fat Joe's season there. And a lot of the NBA guys we interviewed over that time, and like stars like Jermaine O'Neal, like literally said word for word, like the most nervous he's ever been to play basketball was at Rucker.
When I got the opportunity through Fat Joe to come out and play, it was like, yeah, I'm gonna be there because I've heard so much about it. Obviously it has a history. When we got there, it was like 1,000, 2,000 people out there. That's probably the most nervous I've been in a basketball game ever in my life.
Did you have any nerves going in there? I mean, obviously you're a hooper, but did you have any nerves just because the crowd's right on top of you and you could hear them, and it's like if you mess up, you're gonna hear about it?
To me, it wasn't nervous. I always been in atmospheres like that. My dad's gym growing up has always been like that to prepare us for stuff like that. But it wasn't nervousness. It was more excitement, but it was more like, all right, if you get a nickname out of the Rucker, you like stamped, you solidify in not just basketball, but street ball and all that. And I think why Jermaine O'Neal was saying that is because if you get exposed out there, because a lot of guys who play street ball, a lot of guys who play, who didn't maybe have the chance to play in the NBA, or maybe or was on the border of making it and didn't make it, they're going to go out there and try to prove a point. Like, oh, I should be where you at. So it makes you like go from being a summertime pro to, okay, I'm in the league now. Let me show you why. And I'm going to correct you. So my whole thing was when I was in the Rucker to be like, nah, this is why I'm in the league. And this is why I'm solidified, and this is why I hold it down for my city. And everything I always do is protect my last name because I'm named after my father, who was the first round pick in the NBA, first point guard ever taken. So my whole life I've always been to protect my name and to stand 10 toes down because a lot of players and a lot of parents or other people always be like, he only gets this because of who his dad is, and he only gets this because. So my whole thing was like, if you tell your son to come make a name off me, he's not going to do that. So I take that same mentality into playing. I don't care if I go play at Linwood High School against the high school kids or anybody. I'm going to let you know, like, this is because this is the hard work I put in. So when I was playing in Rucker, I was like, okay, I'm going to put on for my city because everybody don't think that down south players know how to play, especially from Texas, because we are known for basketball, known for baseball, and known for football, and we're barking into a basketball mecca, which is in New York. So I put the city on my back, and I'm gonna let everybody know my name rings bells, and that's the mentality I had going into that game. I had like 25 that game.
Yeah, that's sick.
But the sick part is, the 25 gets erased because of 66. A 66,
25, yeah.
66 that's all the talk of the town. And at the time, it wasn't Instagram. It was just Twitter.
Yeah, and Facebook. That's it. I remember I put up I went on Facebook because my history with work is I interned with NBA TV, and that year they broadcasted from Rucker. So my year I interned, I was at Rucker all the time. I was there the legendary 2003 season. From my point of view of that game, just like being a basketball fan, I was like, this is the greatest player to ever come here since Kobe, and maybe the second best ever. And so I went on Facebook and said that. I was like, yo, if you are within shooting the, if you were in driving distance of Harlem, you need to get here now. Like the scoring champ is sitting on the sideline. It wasn't like you didn't know who KD was. Like you knew who he was.
Right. And the crazy thing is like if it was like so when the game was over, I was like, damn, they was like, he had 66. I was like, gee, because you so caught up in the game, you don't really keep track. You just was like, yo, he's making so many shots. I don't know. I thought he might have had like 40, 50, because all the deep threes he was taking. They yelled down 66. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I had a couple of friends that I didn't even know that was there that was from Houston that was at the game. And I was like, yo, was it looking crazy? Like I had to ask him when I saw him, I was like, yo, lady. He was like, yo, that was the most craziest thing I've ever witnessed in basketball. And I've had been around the game of basketball my whole entire life. So I have seen like this is my big bro. And that's the only thing hanging in my house. It's cold. And I've been to I live 4 houses away from him in Philadelphia. Him and my sister graduated high school together. I went to every high school basketball game Kobe played in at Little American High School from his junior year to senior year. If it wasn't for Kobe, I don't think my dad would have ever got into the grassroots basketball of like player development and training because he was the first one that my dad ever trained outside of NBA players when he was in high school. So when I saw Kobe do that at Rucker, obviously I was in high school then. I was like, yo, one day I'm going to play in Rucker. I don't know when, but one day I'm going to play, right? And it just so happened the lockout year living in New York is like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. You can walk down the street and it's cracking. It's like it's out there pickup games.
Yeah.
And and that's when I learned the saying, bring your game, not your name, was when living in New York. Bring your game, not your name. And I was like, yo, that's right. Because every time you step foot on this court, it ain't like somebody's there to bust your ass.
Yeah.
And if you get exposed, then they're gonna be like, oh, guess what? I bust John Lucas's ass. He playing the NBA. And my whole thing was like, my name is not gonna be like that. Especially now I know when I can have control. Because in the NBA, you really don't have control of your playing time or if you play or if you don't play. So a lot of people think like that 12, 13, 14, 15 man on the roster are bums that like can't play because they don't get no playing time. No, that 12, 13, 14, 15 man will bust anybody ass that think they could play.
When did you know about the Kobe at Rucker? Was that like after the fact, or did you
No, before. Like I knew like when Kobe came in there, it was just after he won the championship.
Title.
Yeah, third title. Like I'm a basketball rat. I'm a basketball junkie. I eat, sleep basketball. So. And obviously that's my big bro. So I kept up with everything Kobe was doing. I always stayed in contact with him when I was in college. So everything he done, I was like tuned in. So when he was at Rucker doing that and putting the show on the way he put the show on it, he could have gone out there and made it look like a little celebrity. No, he was out there like, this was why I'm great. This is why I'm the best.
If it wasn't for the rain, he could have had a similar thing to KD because – I went up to KD just on the footage at halftime and I said, he had 23 points. But in his head, he was actually not happy with his performance because he was getting double teamed. And he says to the camera, he's like, man, they're double teaming out here. Like, what is this, NBA? So he wasn't happy with his performance. And Kobe was around the same thing. He was around like 25 and then the rain came. So it's not like Kobe couldn't have done that, but obviously you never know. The rain came and they never played it. But were you guys coming out to double team him? What was the game plan?
I never double team in the summer league or program game. The coach who was coaching that, it was my first time even playing with those guys or playing with that team. He was like, go double team. And I'm like looking like, yo, this is like Rucker Park. Like this, like you don't do no double team. It's like one-on-one, you got to lock down, or you going? And he was like telling people to go double team, and everybody was listening. And I wasn't a fan of it, but I was like, he scores 80, he scores 80. Like, you know what I'm saying? But every now and then, I would be right there, and I like put my hand in to like try to swipe the ball, but it was just like I'm not gonna run all the way over there and pick up a full court double team trap on the man. Like,
nah. Yeah.
That's not what it's for.
John, can you give us some insight of what your dad's legendary summer runs were like? I've only ever heard, and I've seen some like archive video, but like, what was that like growing up? Like, what were those? If you could give us an inside, behind the curtain.
Man, it was the greatest thing. He man, like the run's always been great. You like Marbury, Steve Francis, Catino Mobley, Kobe, LeBron, uh, McDyess, Nick Van Axel, um, Sean Colson, who's a street ball legend in Philadelphia, played in the league for a little bit. Dana Barrows. Um, man, there's been so many guys, and seeing them guys, and then being in high school playing against them guys, like throwing them out there, like, okay, I'm guarding Stephon Marbury, and I'm a freshman in high school.
That's
like
crazy.
So when I was in high school, I was like, high school was easy to me. I'm like, if I don't score 30 a game in my high school team, then I shouldn't be playing. Because if I'm holding it down against Stephon and Steve and Catino and all of them, like, I'm not really worried about nobody in high school guarding me, like, or even fearing them for the most part. And he didn't just do that with me. Like, he did it with all my friends, like TJ Ford, who's was my best friend, Daniel Ewing, Emeka Okafor, who was my high school teammate. We played high school basketball together. Lawrence Roberts, who played in the league for a little bit. We all was on the same high school team. So it literally would be 5 high school players playing against 5 pros, and whoever wins, sit down. Whoever loses, whoever wins stays. Whoever loses. So we just learned at an early age just how to compete and what it really is to take to be a pro. And those runs they still legendary. We still have them going on. I kind of took the torch, and I'm doing the same thing. Like, the runs are amazing. I just like good quality of work, good quality game, good quality players. Like, no cherry picking. Like, let's play ball. Let's get each other better. Like, let's build a basketball community. And that's one thing my dad's always preached to everybody that came into the lab. We call it the lab. And, we consider passing that on. So, like, don't run. We don't run for no fades. Like, if you know this person's better than you, like, go guard him. Like, stop running. Like, that was my dad's thing. If you scared, go to church. That's what he always used to say. And then, like, the greatest thing I ever seen was J.R. Smith was training was down there with us, and he came every summer for like 8 summers. And one of the guys in college was getting ready for the draft, pre-draft workouts, right? And he was like shaking about guarding JR, like kind of scared. And I'll never forget this. My dad was like, JR, take your shoes off. And everybody's like, man, why is he taking his shoes off? He's like, take your shoes off. And my dad, I don't even know where he got it from. He had a Sharpie. And he told JR to sign his shoes and give it to the kid.
That's hilarious.
And from that day, that kid was trying to go at JR it was like he got called out. He got embarrassed. People was laughing, but it kind of triggered something. And that's one thing my dad is good at, not even good, he's great at, is getting and tapping into somebody's mental and pulling something out of them that they didn't know they had in them. And I think that comes from him going through what he went through with the, substance abuse and going and having hospitals because it's all mental. He knows how to tap in the right way and not a negative and like putting somebody down, but kind of tap into where he can get it. Now, everybody can't do that, but some reason he got the gift to do it.
Yeah.
And he done it to me. I'm hot-headed. I'm this and that. And he used to be able to tap into me to be like, and it's just amazing to see. And he's doing it now with the Rockets. Like, controlling. I've been coaching for the last 3 years in the league with the Timberwolves, and I don't know how he get the control. Like, some of these guys are like out of pocket.
Yeah, right.
It's like you have to also be able to communicate, and that's the greatest thing I have learned from him is basketball can take you places that you didn't know you can go, and also get you around people that can help you in other ways too.
Do you take anything? You were saying earlier that you were playing in every tournament, and before we got on, I quickly just looked at some stats, and that was your best year in the NBA. Do you credit, like, I guess my question is, like, just for hoopers that follow us, a lot of young hoopers follow us, Do you think it's very important to be playing that high competitive stuff in the off season, like, or is that just a coincidence that that happens to be your best NBA season of numbers?
Well, it's two things. That year, the lockout year, I finally got like I've been on teams, right? But that year, obviously, we had a lot of injuries on that team. Derek, CJ, coming out the lockout year. So I actually got to show everybody what I actually could do.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not saying I'm better than Derrick Rose or better.
But you get your opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I got my opportunity, and I didn't shy away from the moment. That's the whole thing, right? Is when that opportunity comes, you only might get one shot at that opportunity. So you got to make the best of it. And I was just always patiently waiting for just the opportunity. I knew when I got it, I was going to kick the door down. Like, let everybody know this is why I'm where I'm at. This is why I'm here. This is the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the tears I've put in all these years for this opportunity. And once that happens, the rest was history. But one thing I have learned now that I'm into player development stuff, a lot of kids don't like to compete. A lot of kids don't want to smoke. It's only so much skill work you can do.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to apply that skill into actual game and actually, like, I get tired of, like, sometimes I see players and I watch them play. It's like they're doing the cone drills that they've been doing.
Right.
And they're not reading. Basketball's a game of feel. And if you're constantly doing cone drills and drills and ducking from the competition, it will show. Especially in the eyes of somebody who plays, like who knows the game, who's been around the game. Like, you can't fool me. So I know, oh yeah, I call him, oh, you're a cone dummy. Like, every move you do is so robotic that when you put a defense or a defender out there on you, you're still doing the same robotic moves. Yeah. But it's like you're going to the cones and it's not working. Yeah. So every day we play.
Yeah, I film a lot of MMA and a lot of boxing, and you find the same thing. You'll hear trainers talk about the same thing. A guy that looks good shadow boxing but doesn't perform under the lights. So it's every sport has that thing where you just look, you can only look so good practicing before you have to,
And the worst thing is like I have my own AAU program. We have our own AAU program, and guys be trying to team up and match up and have a super team. I'm like, no, y'all going against each other. Like, it ain't no, like, when you in between these lines, it ain't no friends. Like, I hate when I go watch games and I don't never see the best players guard each other in AAU. I never see that. And now that I'm in it and I always make my best players in the gym guard each other. Because one thing I've always said, and I live by this, and I even have it written down, if you're the best player at your gym, it's time for you to leave that gym and go find you another gym. Because you're not getting better.
Right.
Who cares? Okay, every time I go to this gym, I'm always the king of the court. I'm the top dog. Okay, well, you're not getting better because let's go across town and to where my boy Bobby Brown, I'm just using because I'm in LA. Bobby Brown, and let's go see if you top dog over there with Bobby and Pooh and Frank Nitty and all them guys when they playing ones. That's how you get better.
Yeah.
But what people are scared of now is the social media, ending up in a highlight tape, ending up in a mixtape or whatever, getting embarrassed, and everybody's like, "Oh, you failed. Oh, you got dunked on." Look, a man literally flew over me in an NBA game. If you don't get dunked on, and you don't get crossed up, or you don't get embarrassed in basketball, then you haven't been playing basketball and you haven't been playing at a high level.
Yeah, I was going to say at a high level. Yeah.
Because it's going to happen.
Yeah. Is it LeBron that dunked? Were you like on the...
Yeah.
I think I remember. You were not... Yeah.
On the base. But it's like, okay, now what's your... Are you going to listen to the outside noises and be like, oh, LeBron jumped up. He's supposed to on 5'11".
Right. Yeah.
Like, but then like, me being a competitor who I am, I knew we played them 2 weeks later, and D Rose was supposed to come back from turf toe. I called D Rose and was like, yo, I need for you to sit this game. Like one more game. I need one more game. Because one thing about our team, everybody knew they role. So nobody, like, even though I was playing good, I know when Derek came back, I'm back to being the third guard. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knew their role. And that's what made us so special those 2 years. It was like no one team in the East. And no one team in the NBA, I'm sorry, for those 2 years. So he was like, what? Man, I'm ready to play, man. I've been sitting down for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm like, I got to get my fade back. I said, you haven't been living in my – for 2 weeks, all I've been hearing about is this man jumping over me, dunking on me. He's been on top 10 plays. I'm probably going to be in the Hall of Fame because of it when they do his Hall of Fame reel. That play's going to be there. My dad calling me, joking me about it every day, stuff like that. So I called Derek. They was like, all right, G, well, you better show up and show out. I said, say no more. Right? So everybody was expecting him to play. We playing at the United Center. I'm just locked in. I missed like one shot that game. I scored 24 points, had 5 assists, and then me and LeBron ended up on the ISO, top of the key, and nobody knew. If you go back and watch the game I had against KD the next night after Rucker, when I scored 60 on KD, I hit him with the same move I hit LeBron with at the United Center. Crossover, double cross, get to my left, fade away going left, over the top. Same exact. If you go watch the YouTube game against KD when he played for Gold's Gym and I was playing for Big Apple, the next night it was like
Pro City.
Yeah. I scored 60 that game.
My friend Edgar was filming there, so he definitely has the tape.
I scored 60 that game.
Yeah, I'm going to find it. I remember that. You know what? I tried to get in and I was locked out.
It was packed.
The fire shut it down.
Yeah,
I remember parking. It was at was it Baruch College or Hunter College?
Yep. And the referee is Zach, who refs in the NBA, ref that game.
Yeah.
And so every time I used to check into the game in the NBA, he was like, I still haven't seen a performance like that at the pro round. Like every time.
Yeah, I gotta hit up Ed because me and Edgar are actually working on a project, so I'm gonna hit him up and ask him if he has that.
So it was I had ISO and I was not passing the ball. I was like, okay, I know I ain't gonna dunk on him. I'm gonna at least try to cross him up, make him fall, and I'm gonna get a bucket. And that was just my mindset. So when we got ISO and the game was nationally televised, if you can read my lips, after I hit that shot on him, they call a timeout. I turned around, I was like, he can't fucking hold me either. Right? And that's the mentality you have to have. That's the Houston in me.
Yeah.
That's what the city brought out of me. Like, that's what my dad and everybody brought out of me. Like, everything I did, I always do for my name, and I did for the city of Houston.
Yeah.
We hated Miami.
Yeah.
Like, Tibbs had us hating Miami.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's now with the Knicks.
I know. Yeah, he's now with the Knicks. Yeah, I just remember that, and then I never forget my dad called me, and my mom was going crazy in the background because, everybody at home was watching it. The game was crazy. It was an important game. And my dad was like, yo, hey, Hoss, because he calls me Hoss. He was like, hey, Hoss, you played your ass off, Hoss. But one thing, you had an out-of-body experience. Did you really say he can't hold you either? Man, basketball, man, it's life to me, man. Like, I love it. Like, I watch every game. I study the game, and that's what I be trying to get my kids to do, man. Less this on 2K and more. If you really want to take your game serious, you got to be a student of the game. You got to study the game. Everybody, not just the star players, because that's not who you're going to be. Like, try to study players who kind of mimic your game or who you want your game to mimic by. Like, for me, I always watch smaller guards. I knew I wasn't going to be tall. So why would I watch what Kobe's doing? Why would I watch what, bigger guys are doing? So my dad and Tom Thibodeau, who's been a family friend because my dad and him worked together. When my dad was the head coach and stuff, he was an assistant. Was like, here's film on Dana Barrows. Here's film on Damon Stoudemire. Here's film on AI. Here's film on Muggsy Bogues. Here's film on Mark Jackson. Here's from all these smaller guards. And I just, at a young age, was just studying. And I'll never forget when I played for the Rockets, Thibodeau was the assistant coach. And I was coming out of college, Final Four, John Naismith Award, first team All-American, Big 12 Player of the Year. And I'm like, I'm a bucket, And he asked me, he was like, who you think you play like? Who is your game like? I was like, shit, I'm Allen Iverson. Like, I'm a bucket. And he was like, fuck no, hell no. He was like, you're Dana Barros. And like the next day I had like 20 DVDs of Dana Barros from college to the league. And if you go back and watch my floaters like his, my fadeaways are like, I just studied that and I was like, and then I then it clicked in my head like, oh, Dana Barros played for my pops in Philadelphia and he scored 50 points in the NBA game and I was a ball boy. Like I saw that.
That's amazing.
And I was like, oh, he got game. So I just thought, and that's what he was like a spark plug off the bench. He was never like a solidified starter. He had a couple of starts, but he was just like high energy. And every opportunity came his way, he fulfilled it and made the most of it. And that's why I just based myself behind, like always being ready, never get out of shape, always be ready to go. I've never taken days off.
Yeah, that's great practical advice. Just trying to tell kid to like find the kid that the pro that plays like you, not necessarily the star. To watch film, because I feel like everybody watches film on the top 10 greatest players or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's really smart.
Yeah, you gotta watch film on. It's just how you study for a test in school.
Yeah.
If this is what you want to do in life, then you gotta take it seriously. Like my biggest thing when I train my kids, I was talking about Andre Miller one day, and it kind of hurt me to my soul that a kid told me that Andre Miller was a bum.
He had 50 with no threes.
But because his 2K rating was 60 something, I kicked that kid out my gym.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But I'm just saying that's what's wrong.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong because it's like Andre Miller is a NCAA champion, made over $300 million in the NBA.
Yeah.
Solidified as one of the top PGs in the NBA.
Yeah.
And you're going off a 2K rating that Ronnie 2K, who ain't never played basketball before in his life, is basing his career off of. And I'm sorry. It's like, so I had to kick him out of my gym. I was like, it's just the disrespect. Like, you don't take, like, I'm not going to waste my time because you don't take this game serious if you don't know the difference between a video game and real life.
For sure. And his game, man, he could get buckets till he's 50 the way he played.
Right. And he still gets buckets because he was playing with us pickup in the summertime all last summer.
Yeah.
And he's the only person I know that ties his shoelaces around his ankle.
Yeah, I know.
See, that's how detailed I am. Like, if you're somebody that I've studied and I want to know everything it is to know about you as a player. Like, that's how intense I am about this game. Like Pittsburgh Commodores. People don't even know who that's an ABA team. Like, I'm strictly basketball over here.
Right. I mean, I feel like you perfected the craft. You dove all the way in. You just went all in.
Right. And then it's just like growing up in it, I got stories for days. And like, I've never really talked about it until Kobe passed away. My dad was like, yo, you need to start sharing some of the things. Like, I got every pair of Michael Jordan shoe he ever played in signed and autographed.
Every model?
Yeah, from the ones all the way until he got done playing.
Oh, dude, that sounds like, I mean, their sneaker, that's a shit.
I won't sell them. People.
No, not even sell them. You could sell a TV show on them. You know what I mean?
I have every pair. I have Larry Bird's jersey he wore against my dad and them in the Eastern Conference Championship when they beat Milwaukee Bucks. He gave it to me right off of his, and it's like cotton, sweat stains still on there and everything.
What's the goal? What's the goal with that? Or are you it's just being a junkie of hoops?
It's a junkie hoop, but I had a sick thing. Like, if I felt like if I put, how like before Light Mike came out, I used to be like, if I could get a piece of what they had, like I used to try to walk around in their shoes. Yeah. And like maybe some of the magic would come to me. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. That's how sick I was. I was like, if I don't care. Like Jordan, boom. I knew I couldn't fit his shot, but my foot is in. Like, I'm chilling at home. Like, maybe I get a little bit of that hang time he got.
I feel like people do that. Though. That's manifestation, right? That's like speaking it into existence. That's a lot of things people practice. So I feel like that's more common than not. You just actually had tangible items
Right.
from your goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Shaquille O'Neal's rookie year's shoe, the pumps.
And Shaquille I always get the both pairs because you gotta get the pairs. But Shaq had this rule: he was only giving you one, and he gave somebody else one. So I only got one of his rookie year shoes with the pump size 21 shoe. It was the biggest shoe I've ever seen in my life.
That's amazing.
And like my dad would always be like, always take pictures with legends, right? And now he preaches pros don't take like. So Larry Bird. Every time my dad was playing, he'll be like, get the photographer of the team because I've always been a ball boy. I was like with my dad everywhere he go, and he'll have me take a picture. So I got pictures with Bird, with Magic, Dr. J, Dennis Rodman, my godfather's Iceman, George Gervin. He actually taught me how to finger roll and taught me how to use the backboard. Like now they call it jelly, but then like he calls it English.
Yeah.
Like, and if you go on my last post, he actually comments is like, I see you have mastered the craft of the English. And I was like, well, I learned from the best. You taught me. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's my godfather. So that's my, like, working on that with him. Him showing me the art of it, of how to flick it off your fingers, like when to let it go at the right time. And I was just like this, like a sponge. Like being in the barbershop with my dad and MJ in Chicago and like rolling up the blinds and seeing like whoever told that MJ was in the barbershop, seeing like the whole south side of Chicago at the barbershop. And I'm 5 years old. I'm like, wow.
Damn, man. Your whole life has been basketball. Like, it's true. You truly lived it. And you lived the history, which is crazy just because the names you're dropping of who you're around and taking pictures with is just like crazy.
And like the crazy part, like in high school, like those are like my guys, right?
Right,
So,
because they knew you since you're 5, yeah.
Yeah, but like AI would come to my high school, like they're playing Houston and I had a game, AI is in there watching me play at my high school game.
Wow.
And I got his shoes on. I'm like, yo, I need a pair of shoes. And I'll be like, I'm gonna drop 30 in these, I'm gonna drop 40 in them. Like, and I never wore Reeboks until AI, never wore Adidas until Kobe, because we always been a Nike family, always been Nike. And I used to like playing out there with autographed AI shoes on, playing in high school basketball game.
Wow.
And he's sitting there in the stands like, yo, when you come off that pick and roll, step this way and then hit him with the shake this way. Like, I'm like, all right, bet.
Do you have footage of this?
Yeah, I got all my high school tapes.
Oh, dude, you gotta knock out a doc, man.
Got everything, man. Because I let the whole city and state of Texas, and I led the whole city in scoring and the state of Texas in scoring my senior year. I averaged 30 points and 11 assists a game, and we end up losing to T.J. Ford and then Rilla Ridge in playoffs.
Wow. So he was older. He must have been older than you, TJ.
No, we all class of 01. We all graduated together.
Right.
He came out our sophomore year.
Right.
Because I went to Baylor, he went to Texas, but we originally all wanted to go to U of H. It was like me, D. Ewan, TJ, Emeka, Lawrence Roberts, and who was it? Corey Smith and Kenny Taylor. And we wanted to be like the Fly Samba Jamma again, like bring the city
that would
back.
Be amazing.
But at the time, I forgot who the coach was. He only recruited East Coast players. He only had all East Coast guards.
Even Emeka at the time wasn't Emeka one of the top.
Yeah, Emeka and we graduated.
No, I know, but I'm saying, wasn't he one of the top in the class? They weren't recruiting him.
They felt like he didn't recruit us. He didn't recruit none of us. So Emeka ended up going to UConn, and then Kenny, Taylor, myself, and Lawrence went to Baylor. And I'll tell you about that situation. That's a whole nother live. I'll tell you about that because I was there when my teammate got murdered. Like that's my year. I was there for the Baylor stuff.
Wow.
And then Daniel went to Duke. Corey Smith went to Vanderbilt, and the rest was history. So yeah, like when people ask me about basketball, I'm like, I have literally been through everything that have been in the game of basketball. I've been through being investigated by the NCAA, FBI, because of what happened at Baylor.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I didn't know that was your teammate then. I knew that story, but I didn't know. I didn't put two and two together.
Yeah, I went through that, and then RIP to legendary coach Eddie Sutton, who took a chance on me. And the crazy thing is, the year I won Big 12 Player of the Year and went to the Final Four, I was a walk-on. I wasn't even on scholarship because I started school late because of the whole Baylor situation.
Wow.
So I'm probably the only walk-on to ever win a Big 12 Player of the Year. I paid
sick.
my junior year, and then the next year I went on scholarship.
Got it. Wow, that's sick.
Yeah. So and then like just like Coach Sutton changing me from being a young man into a grown man at a young age.
Wow.
He was
You
like
must have loved when you were on walk on, huh?
I guess. I mean,
like, got that extra scholarship and we got a baller? That's nice.
Well, at the time, the whole Baylor thing, man, when all that stuff happened, I started school my junior year 3 months late because they was like, oh, y'all you can go somewhere and play right away, but it can't be in the Big 12. So I was originally supposed to go to the University of Memphis with Coach Cal. But then, like 2 days later, they was like, okay, you can transfer in the Big 12 too and not have any penalties and whatever. So I was like, I already made a name for myself in the Big 12. Let me stay in the Big 12. So that's how I ended up at Oklahoma State. And it was like a last minute thing because at the time, my dad, we was in Houston training, and Victor Williams and Mo Baker, I don't know if you know, Mo Baker was like top dog in the Big 12 at the time. They were in Houston training with us, and they was like, yo, a perfect coach would be A.D. Sutton for you.
Wow.
Never even thought about it because I'm a city boy. And I was like, man, Oklahoma State is in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Right.
A population of probably 4,000 or 5,000 people. Like,
right.
I mean, I'm over exaggerating, but it's small.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I'm a city boy. Like, I got to go to where the lights is at. I'm a night owl. I got to be out. I got to see what the city pops. But it was like the best thing for me to be away from all that because it made me, Waco was the same way, but I was only an hour and 30 minutes away from Houston. So I used to drive that trip like it's like me going from the Studio City over to Inglewood. That's how I felt like when I was driving it so much.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I'm still around my homeboys, my friends and stuff. My cousins used to drive up all the time. So I wasn't focused like I was at Old State. And that was the difference. I had to get out of that to get to where, basketball always was focused. I'm just talking about like just really locking in.
And for sure. There's a different level. There's a different level you could get to. Yeah.
And now I tell my guys because, a lot of recruiting and stuff. I got some of the top players in the country training with me. And I tell them, like, don't choose the school because of the name. You have to look at your game, and then you have to go study that team. And can you see yourself in the way you play fit that? Because you can go somewhere, because you go to a Kentucky or a Duke or a Kansas, just know next year, if you're not able to play right away, they're going to recruit over you.
Yeah,
and now you get pushed further down. So that's why I like stories like Dame, C.J. McCulley, like those guys. They look at them; they superstars in the league, and they didn't go to like a Duke or a Kentucky or mid-major. If you can play, now that I'm coaching the NBA, if you can play, we're gonna find you.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna find you. Like it don't matter. We have scouts everywhere. We know who gets buckets. We know like Chris Clemens that played for the Rockets. He wasn't high on the line, but he averaged 30 in college, and now he's on the Rockets team because what's one thing that he can do? He can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
So it's like it's
that's
crazy.
Great advice.
Yeah, it's crazy because now, like I see all these mixtapes and highlights of players, and they like, and I'm all for like the free marketing and all that. Like, keep doing it. I love the new wave of the kids that's hype, that's got it going. But then again, I'm like, when I see you, I'll be like, oh, I see why they don't post the whole game.
Right.
Because everybody has flaws.
Yeah.
But if you showing me something that you always done great and you good at, and you in every possession is like you dunking, and can you ball handle? Can you shoot? Like that's how I think.
Yeah.
And then when I actually see you play, I'm like, okay, I see the difference of him making it and not making it.
Yeah.
So I don't really watch mixtapes on guys because it's an illusion. I'd rather go watch the guys in person.
For sure.
Or call somebody, be like, yo, send me the whole film through email, and then I can really analyze and really make a good comparison, but also a good evaluation of what type player he is, and can this kid or can this young man actually play?
Yeah.
Because I get, like, when I see guys who've been hyped up, and then they don't make it, and all of a sudden you don't hear from them anymore. It's like once they don't make it, it's like everybody who was hyping them up because they didn't make it end up going by the wayside. And that's not how basketball's supposed to be. That's not how it's supposed to be. Like, if my kids don't make it, I'm gonna make sure that, okay, well, that opportunity didn't present itself. Let's get ready for the next one. Because you always got to be prepared for whatever presents itself and got to be ready. Because if you're not, this is the biggest thing that can get to you. It's mental. Getting down on yourself. I mean, I thought I was gonna get drafted. I didn't get drafted. And I averaged 18 points a game in college. Like, and some of the people that was getting drafted ahead of me was averaging 6, 7. And mine was like, my dad told me, he's like, you're not gonna get drafted because of your size. And I was like, man, fuck that. I got game. Like, they're gonna draft me. Like, look at what I'm doing. Like, everybody drafting ahead of me, I've killed.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're going into a different ball game. They ain't worried about if you can score 30, 40 points a game, because it's not about you at the end of the day. They pay somebody $40 million to score them points. You got to be a piece to the puzzle that fits.
1,000%. Yeah.
So I just thank God that I had somebody like that in my in my corner that could teach me the game and also the business behind the game of basketball. Because he's been a head coach in the NBA and still coaching the NBA. He's been the president of an NBA team. He's been the GM of an NBA team. So he knows how it works.
Yeah.
So I used to get mad when people were like, man, why don't you ever go train with this person and train with that person? Why are you always staying in Houston training? I'll be silly and foolish to go train with somebody else who hasn't done what this man has done.
Yep.
Like, he's first point guard ever taken in the NBA draft. First pick. He's been a head coach. He's been a GM. He's been a president. Like, I would be silly not to listen to him.
Yeah.
And go listen to somebody who doesn't have the same credentials or same knowledge or same anything of the game. So I've always stayed tuned. Like, my wife be like, I'm tired of living in Houston. Let's go. I'm like, until I stop playing basketball, I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
It's the only person I trust and only person I trust with my training.
Yeah.
I bring in the same thing in my training with my guys. And I'm like, yo, okay, you out here scoring every bucket, but that's not what you're gonna be doing in the games.
Yeah.
Like, let's be so efficient where they can't take us off the court.
Yeah.
You know, my whole thing is about being efficient. I'm one of the top of, if you go look at the numbers in the NBA, I'm like top 10 in efficiency of times played in minutes. And the only reason I know that because now I'm into the analytic part of the game of basketball, and the comparisons of this player, that player, this player, it's all on data. It's all on, you know what I'm saying? So you can always see. And it was brought to me my last year playing in the NBA that I was one of the top 10 players of inefficiency. And I was like, damn, that means every time I'm on the court, I'm making an impact and I'm not making a mistake. So I will forever be able to get a job because they know they can rely on me, and I'm an insurance policy. That's how I used to call it. An insurance policy of if one of their star players at my position ends up missing a couple of games, they're not going to miss a beat. They have somebody who can come in and do the same exact things that the star player is doing. And that's what a lot of guys mess up at mentally, is when they get caught up, I ain't playing, and then they sit on the bench and pout, and they don't work on their game, and they're not getting their shots up at night. They're not coming to the gym first thing in the morning, being the last person. Like, they start messing with, like, stop doing what actually got them there and start reverting because they're upset and they're mad because they're not playing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they be like, oh, it's your time. And because you wasn't ready because you've been pouting and doing all that, and you go out there and you look sloppy and you look terrible, you get that pink slip in your locker. You get cut, and then all of a sudden you see, oh, damn, they brought another point guard in? Yeah, because you didn't do your job.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's just a business at that point, and it's just numbers they're looking at for that. Yeah. So I know you actually, the last time we filmed with you, maybe the first time we actually filmed with you was at that clinic, and you imparted that exact advice on those top high school kids.
It's about being efficient. I want to have 20 points with 8 shots, or 9 attempts, not 20 points with 25 attempts. Now the game has gone to analytics. So if you doing that in that short period of jump shots, you're going to always get picked up on an NBA team or get picked up on a team because it shows that you're efficient. You can score 30, 40 points, but you taking 25, 30 shots, it just shows you're a shot taker.
Anything you want to leave us with, what you're up to now? You want to promote anything that you have going on?
Man, I just, JL3 basketball, just training, player development stuff, coaching stuff. I'm just here to help, man. If I can help any way, I'm about the game. And I always say never disrespect the game of basketball. I believe in basketball gods. So I always want to make sure when I lay my head down at night on that pillow, I know when I was training or I know when I was playing that I didn't disrespect the game and I gave it all I had in that time. And that's how I tip my hat on. So I just want these young guys to know, man, if you really want to take this craft seriously, then you have to put the work in. You cannot cheat the grind. You cannot cheat the grind because it's going to show.
Yeah, especially the higher the levels you go.
Yeah. And then also, like, I like just compete, man. Just compete. Let's go play against the best. You want to be the best, you got to go against the best. Like, stop running. I'm tired of seeing kids running from competition. Like, compete. I'm big in competing. Like, hey, he might get the best of me. Like, it's been times in the gyms where somebody who don't even play in the league who actually could play got the best of me. Like, you know what I'm saying? But, hey, he going to have to get the best of me every day because guess what? Tomorrow I'm coming back. I'm coming back the next day. I'm coming back. Just always compete. Just compete. That's the biggest thing. And always keep God first and stay true to who you are and always been 10 toes down. Don't change who you are to try to fit in.
It's awesome advice. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking your time and reliving career with us and also the KD stuff. I know we're going to have, for the 10-year anniversary, a whole doc on it. So I'll definitely reach out to you about that. But appreciate you, man. I'll stay in touch with you. If you ever need any video work from us, just feel free to reach out. We're in the LA area. I'm actually in the bubble right now. I'm here until September 8th working with the NBA. So I'm back in the LA area come September.
Yeah. All right. Good to talk. You probably see my posts out
Thank you
there.
so
I'm
much.
watching the games now. All right. See you.
See you.